We're trying here. Does anybody else see her and I just don't see her? Try again, Queen. Here she is. Here she is. All right, there she is. All right, and then we're waiting on one more. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing tonight?
I'm amazing.
She's amazing. Okay. How you doing, Preach?
As usual, consistent in that area.
Good.
Jen, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, y'all. Doing wonderful. Glad to have everyone here tonight, y'all. Welcome back to the Red Room. I should say, welcome back to the Red Room. Period. Well, y'all, we are polite here in the Red Room, so we will let Miss Rebecca go first because ladies always go first. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll move on to Queen, and then we will go over to Mr. Preach.
All right. Shout out to everybody in here, and thank you so much for having me, Jen. I'm your girl, really, Rebecca. I host Secret Sweetheart every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I didn't start saying it that way until Jen. I'm just being honest with y'all, and I've been saying it that way ever since I met her. So shout out to Jen and Juice in the building, and shout out to Juancho. Y'all heard me. You know what I mean? So, but I host Secret Sweetheart every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and yeah. Thank you for having me.
It's your favorite, but your most annoying Queen Essence. I'm so happy to be here. Happy Green Grass Day to all of you. Even if you don't participate, happy another Alive Day. I am here every Saturday, unless next Saturday Jen does not do what she's supposed to do on time. But that's between me and my best friend. So thank you guys for showing up on yet again another Saturday, and I'm excited about tonight.
Yeah. We're good people, pretty positive building here to shed that positivity and just learn from these queens that we have in the body. It's always a pleasure to see everybody. I love y'all.
Sorry. I am Jen. I am the host of this show right here, right now, every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you don't find me on Saturdays, y'all can check me out tomorrow. It will be in my live. We are doing Soul Food Sunday. So make sure y'all tap in tomorrow with that number one Bubble Wancho number. And I will be cooking up not only food, but a little bit of conversation. So make sure y'all tap in tomorrow. We do 1 week my live, 1 week his live, but this week it's mine, so make sure y'all tap in. And then on Tuesdays, make sure y'all check out Wancho Snacks and Juice, where we try out the newest snacks and drinks to hit the market, y'all. So make sure y'all tap in on Tuesdays in Wancho's live. And then go to wanchojuice.com. If you're feeling froggy, to go check out the merch. All right, y'all. Self-love is important. We are created inside of our own bodies, and this is the person we should love. There are things about us that we want to change and that we find hard to accept, and self-love is to love who I am. I'm precious, I'm worthwhile, I'm worth the time, and I love to create the life I want. When we don't have self-love, meaning we don't respect ourselves and we don't feel deserving to take care of our needs, then we expect others to do it for us. For instance, if you have children, then you may try to turn them into something that you need them to be so that they can fulfill your emptiness, instead of fulfilling that within yourself. When we have self-love, we're the most powerful we can be, and it overflows to others. So I want to know,
what is your your definition of self-love?
Anybody can take it.
Me?
Sure.
For me, self-love is self-explanatory. You know what I mean? Like, it's about you Like being able to, number one, recognize two different things: the good and the bad in everything. And once you, especially as adults, like, as children, we kind of get like these kind of like, either convoluted versions of things that we understand about ourselves, and or we get this overstimulated version thing of what we understand about ourselves. But it's about understanding balance. Like self-love is balance. Is you balancing out, you being able to take care of yourself and others as well too, especially for people that choose to serve others. Like, it's very important that you take care of yourself first. If you don't, then how can you? As a mother, like when a mother has a child in their womb, if they don't take care of themselves, that child suffers as well too. And it's the same thing for the world. If we don't take care of ourselves, then the world suffers around us because we didn't take care of ourselves. So that's how I look at it, if that makes sense.
Go ahead, preach.
Self-love, in my opinion, is really what a lot of Rebecca said. Just the acknowledgement, being in acceptance of the things that you're flawed at, your downfalls, and then that approval and that fortitude of the things that you're great at, and just really doing that, loving on yourself. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much the tip of it. I mean it's self-explanatory. It's all the ways that you love yourself and being unapologetic for how you do that.
My definition of self love is always giving or taking 10% upward or 10% downward of what your standard is. Because only each of us know what self love means to us. So, in a way, yes, it is self explanatory because you can only and you should only explain it to yourself. But it's also self expressive, it's self motivated, it's selfish. So, self love to me is thinking of you first when you think about the pros and cons and the losses and gains of everything that doing something or saying something or being somewhere or feeling something is only 10% or less higher or lower than what you think of yourself. And allowing yourself that grace and that gratitude and the same, if not a overflow of the amount of love that you would give to someone else. So before you say, yeah, but I do got the money, but I really did want to buy this ticket, but a ticket is materialistic, and this has to do with their livelihood. Understanding that the same way that you are able to decide what is 10% upward or 10% downward of yourself could be 100% to the natural man and 80% to the unnatural man. And who that 10 up or 10 down is to the person that you're helping, they may not even consider or have found their true power in the number that they think of themselves, right? Because we can always learn more, but never less about a situation. Self-love to me is disregarding the benefits, the losses, the gains, or the wins of another person before you know what you want for yourself. No matter what that means for the other person, but everything that means for you.
So to me, self-love is a state of appreciation for oneself that grows from actions that support our physical, our psychological, and our spiritual growth. Self-love means having a high regard for our own well-being and happiness. Self-love means taking care of our own needs and not sacrificing your well-being to please others. Self-love also means not settling for less than you deserve. Self-love can mean something different for each person because we all have many different ways to take care of ourselves. Figuring out what self-love looks like for you as an individual is an important part of y'all's mental health, which is why we're talking about this. We're kind of going in line here, y'all. We just talked about mental health, and now we're going to learn how, hopefully by the end of this, give you guys some insight on how to love yourself too. But if y'all are just pulling up, that's okay. We have so much more to come, y'all. You can find us here every what?
Saturday.
Saturday. Right here on the Red Room Talk at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He said shelf love. We just discussed what self-love is. Now I want to talk about things holding you back from self-love. We all carry burdens in our hearts, whether they be from past hurts, regrets, or relationships that have gone sour. If given the choice, many of us would choose to evict that person or pain from our hearts in a heartbeat. But the question remains, who or what would we choose to remove and why? Perhaps it is an old flame who left us brokenhearted, a friend who betrayed us, betrayed our trust, or a family member whose actions have caused us pain. Whatever the case may be, the desire to rid ourselves of these burdens is a powerful one, as we long to free ourselves from the emotional weight that holds us back. So, if given the chance,
What person or pain from your heart would you remove and why?
You want me to go first on this one?
I will go.
So,
Chill, preach.
because of the level of growth that I've experienced within the last few years, I wouldn't remove any of them. A hardship lesson is knowing that the pains that we go through is so important for the development of who we are today. You know what I'm saying? And each hurt that I experience, whether from family, my childhood, friends that's hurt us, bad relationships, I needed all of them. Because without those experiences, I literally would not have the knowledge and be the well-charactered person that I am today. That was a hard lesson. Even when you first asked the question, I was literally sitting on that spot like, there's a few of them that I wish I never went through. But in a realistic sense, like I needed every one of them. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't remove any of them.
And piggybacking off of that, real talk, like when you asked the question immediately, the first thing I thought was I wouldn't change it. Like, as much as we would wish that we could change certain things that's happened in our past because it was a traumatic situation at that time, so is breathing. So is like waking up every morning. You know what I mean? Like, it could be a traumatic experience if you don't see the blessings in it. So at the end of the day, no matter what, like everything that happens for you is a blessing or a lesson. But even a lesson is a blessing because if you live through it, that means that you can learn to be better from it. So, hey, it is what it is. I want to change that.
For me, I would remove or evict the first person that hurt me because it was my mother and I lost her at 17. And the only reason why I would remove the death of that woman is because in my mind, there's a beginning and an end, right? So if that is obsolete, if that is always true, if that scale is always balanced and never tipped, that means that we live and we grow upon the attraction of our opposites. So the opposite of her dying would be her living. I would want to know, because in my head, I'm only in competition with the better version of myself. If I chose what seemed to be the grass being greener on the other side, would I be as happy or satisfactory with that outcome? Would I appreciate all the mistakes that I made up and until that point, or how I feel like I contributed to that event in my life? And if only one thing had changed, or if several things had changed, is there an opposite, or does it not matter? And that was something that I was meant to go through. because everything that we are put through, we are meant to see it through or grow through it or learn from it, right? So, still on that same scale of blessing or lesson, who's winning? What is dependent or contingent upon that event taking place? And if I lived my life different through the same pain or the same from a different pain, do I get to have my mother or do I not? And is the woman that I became who I was supposed to be, or would that have differed if I didn't lose her? If life is based on the potential of our growth and always learning, if we don't have the option to change our mind or choose a different route, do we get the same outcome? Not to say that if I could change it, I would be given the option to see the difference or not. But just being open enough and being a sponge enough to be like, I would also like to learn that information if it is not beneficial to me in any way. I definitely would want to see how my life would differ if just one event changed, or if I made a split decision, like the red or the blue pill. Do you live or you learn?
You know, I had a lot of things kind of spooning my mind. I think the one thing that kind of deterred me most in the last just few years is when I got sick. But I really think the one thing that I would evict is my own self-doubt. And I think that's actually what kind of brought this show on. Actually, Preach, it's all his fault, y'all. Blame him, Lord. But it's my own. I really hold my own self back so much in life, and if I could just evict one thing, it's like that little voice inside of my head that's like that negative mindset, and that's something that I know that I because it says if you could, but I know that I can. So that's something that I'm working on. But if I could just evict it and just get out of here and not have that like self-doubt ever, that's what it would be for me. It's that negative part of myself. Because I think a lot of the things that I've been through in my life, as much as I wish that I could change some of them, I think that I wouldn't be as resilient as I am. I definitely probably wouldn't be as good at doing this, because I think a lot of that comes from a lot of the pain that I've been through, a lot of the real life things that I've been through is really what brought me here with all of you guys today. That's what really made me want to do the show, is all these things, not only that I've been through, but I know everyone else has. So I don't think that I would necessarily, I mean, in your mind, you want to be like, man, I could change that bad thing. I could change that bad thing. But all of those things have made up this person that you all know. So I think really the only thing for me would be just that negative part of myself.
But the only thing I can say too is like, that's a really great question. The thing is like, I would challenge people to think about what we think is negative, because self-doubt is not necessarily a negative thing. Like, all of the things that we look at as negative is only negative because we fear something.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't add fear to the equation, nothing is negative. So all of our experiences that we learn are very positive, but they only become negative when we fear things.
Mm-hmm. Fear of failure, fear of, yeah. And I even like speaking on fear, like I always, when I think about like even that, like the fear of failure, I think of Will Smith when he said, I know a lot of y'all, the whole Will and Jada thing, but no, he's actually a very smart, intelligent man.
Very much.
He said some of life's greatest things are on the other side of fear.
And failure is part of that, but failure is actually a blessing, because failure is a lesson. When you fail something, it's not like we make it like it's this player one situation, like if you fail you die and that's it and blah 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 blah, and that's the end of the character. No, that's the thing, is that's just the end of the scene. And what happens in video games that people really don't understand and comprehend is you can start over. And it's the same thing with life. Like, we can start over. The only reason why we don't start over is because we feared dying in the first place.
Exactly.
But when you know that you can start over, you never fear dying. And if we actually took that mentality into mind, it would make us fearless in as individuals, and it would make us more positive towards the outcomes that happens with us and what happens in general. Because you don't look at death as a failure. If somebody dies, that doesn't mean they failed. It just means it was time. And sometimes it's time for you to you know what I mean? But they're already up somewhere else. And just because we don't see it, that doesn't mean that they failed. And it's the same with us. When we're here and we like make it through a failure, we don't look at the small things. We don't look at the blessings of, hey, guess what? You get to do it again. Mm-hmm. Like, if we're going to look at death as like a failure and a bad thing or a negative thing, if we're going to look at that as a negative thing, then should we not understand that if we're still here, that's a good thing? But we don't take it that way. Because we don't appreciate the small things.
There's a quote that Thomas Edison said that I love. He said, "I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
That's it. That's it. That's it. Aristotle, you are who you allow yourself to be. Like, there's a reason why they quote those things. Like, because even, I don't know if anybody read that book, Think and Grow Rich. But even with the book Think and Grow Rich, like, they talked about the man that founded our insurance companies. And long story short, he was one of the leaders of the gold rush at the time. Well, he wasn't hitting it at the end. He hit the biggest one, but they were looking for the big one. And long story short, he gave up. The people around him gave up, so he gave up. They all mentally gave up. And they were literally about 9 feet on top of the biggest gold rush in history. He sold his equipment for little to nothing, and the person that bought it from him hit the biggest gold rush ever. But what he ended up doing was finding another way, and he created the insurance industry that we all live by today. Mm-hmm. They all won.
They're winning now, but if life is based off an end and a beginning to everything, that means that they're going to hit a speed bump or a standstill or some sort of failure, and they're going to have to go back and reanalyze and reassess where they went wrong and how they can do better the next time. Because you can fail by not trying, but to try and to fail means that you can try again, right? You can't restart nothing that you've never started, right? So if that is the way that the world exists, and I think about it as with like the apps on our phones, right? Before it was just a big ass tennis shoe that people put an antenna on and you could talk to your homies on it and y'all didn't have to be on a landline or in a house, right? But then when that service failed, or when we seen that there was no demand for that supply, we went back, reanalyzed, we reassessed, and we found a way to make it better, right? If all of that is true, which we have seen it to be, that means that when you say failure is not an option, that directly means that growth isn't either. Because if you do not fail, you only fail by not trying. But if you do not try, that is a fail.
Yeah.
When you look at everything that you've been through and everything that brought you to this moment right here, to even have an opinion or the life experience to try to help another person who's going through some turmoil or some hardship, if you had not tried, you would have failed to be available or for your opinion to serve purpose in the matter.
Yes, I agree with that, and I don't. And the reason I agree with that is because I understand like the intent of what you're saying with it, but also as well too, that's accepting failure once again, as if that's a negative thing, and it's not. And
that's not what I meant. I'm saying
I get what you're saying, but figuratively, overall, it's still accepting it as if it's not. You get what I'm saying? And that's the unfortunate thing about us being able to have privileges that we have in general of being able to have the luxuries of having these safe conversations is that like sometimes we forget like overanalyzing is still like analyzing, period. Like over or under, you still analyze. Analyzation is just, it is what it is. So like the thing about it is like we are still like it's so natural for us to induce fear into our conversations and to induce fear into everything that we do, period. No matter if it's food, no matter if it's this, no matter if it's that, no matter whatever, like conversation, food, thought, water, this, that, whatever, we put all of that into it. We put this extra energy and spirit into something that's not there a lot of times. And what that does is it creates a mental gap for us. Kind of the same difference as how people feel like if they're on here online, it's a persona or a personality versus who you actually are. Like it's all reality, you know, and it's a disconnect sometimes. And a lot of times we like use fear as a way for us to disconnect from the thoughts of the responsibilities that we have with our thoughts. And when we do that, it creates this bigger pocket of things that put us all in this little hole. And like, what's the way I'm trying to put this? Like, it just, it gives us a whole bunch of stuff that we don't need to worry about, especially when it comes to self-love. You know what I mean? Like when we think about everybody else and stuff over all that stuff, it just puts this little air of like, oh, it's all about them and this and what. No, it's about us. It's about us. It's about us. Like we get the best opinions from ourselves, but we only doubt them because somebody told you to. And the only reason why somebody was able to tell you is because you allowed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful too.
Well, y'all. Sorry, had to do that. It's Red Room Daddy in the building, y'all. It's been a while. Had to say it, y'all. But you're right on time, Red Room Daddy. When you hear that sound, that means we are at our hot seat question segment.
Uh-oh.
Our hot seat question is now left up to the fate of the audience. That's right. I went to Instagram to ask our peers what they wanted to ask for this week's hot seat question. I don't know what is up with my not being able to talk for crap tonight. But if you want your question to be featured on next week's episode, y'all, make sure you go to my profile, click that icon, and follow me on Instagram and look out for that hot seat question post. Now is the time to enter in the comments who on the panel you want to answer tonight's question before I reveal it. Go ahead and enter now.
I want to see somebody new.
Go for preach.
I went last week.
Go for preach.
Oh, wrong show. Go ahead and, we got Rebecca. We got one for Really Rebecca. Another one for Really Rebecca.
Watch out with my phone. Watch out.
We got two for Really Rebecca. Come on, y'all. I know you out there in the audience lurking and
Watch out with my phone.
stuff. Well, y'all, it looks like we had two whole people vote for Miss Really Rebecca. All right.
Yes.
So this week we had someone write in and ask. They wanted to be anonymous, y'all. They said, we know self-care is the best care. And with us knowing that, why do we forget about ourselves so quickly?
Because that's what we were cultured to do. That's what we were cultured to do. Like, respectfully, the majority of people are not worried about being like the top 3% of the world. The majority of the people are not worried about, some of the things that we fiscally or financially have to deal with, or even like, you know, politically or any of those things, or spiritually. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different things that people choose not to deal with or don't understand that they should. So, I mean, it's just something that's taught, in my opinion. It's just something that's taught. It's just something that's taught that's understood. Like, even something as simple as education, I don't feel like education is a all negative thing, but there's a very negative connotation to education as well too, because education teaches conformity, and that's the main part of it is conformity. Like, if you don't make A's or B's, then feel bad. If you don't this and this and that, if you don't have extracurricular activity, you make straight A's. Oh, you got a 4.4 GPA, but you don't have any extracurricular activities. Feel bad. Feel bad. Because now you're not a well-rounded person. Da, 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 da. But that's indicative of how we act about a lot of things in life in general. And a lot of that, to me, is just, you know, culture appropriation. Like, throughout history, the majority of the main issues and problems that has happened for us had nothing to do with natural disaster, had nothing to do with, you know, us progressing towards things or keeping in mind procreation and any of that stuff. Had everything to do with what somebody thought or felt. Wars being fought over thoughts or over dang dang and twat. Like, it's nothing that's ever been like that. So I just really feel like it's just, you know, culture. That's the reason why, you know, like when it came to like pandemic, that was a great time for a lot of people that, you know, understand, and it was a really bad time for those that didn't. It gave a lot of people that didn't understand what was happening at the time excuses to indulge into the negative thoughts of whatever they felt. And for those that understood that this wasn't a time for us to negatively like indulge in things, it gave you the power of understanding that that voice within means something. Like, that's the reason why self-care, self-love means something. Like, that voice within means something, because not only is that the voice of you, but that's the voice of God and reason within you as well too. And it gave people that wanted to have that an opportunity to connect with themselves. And for those that were scared of connecting with themselves, it gave them a great opportunity to run away and escape. So I really feel like there's a lot of cultural things that goes with that. It's taught things.
Okay. If y'all are just pulling up, that's okay. You guys haven't missed much. We still have a lot more to discuss, y'all. You can find us here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Red Room Talk, y'all. We just discussed what self-love is. Then we discussed internal turmoil. But now, now we're going to dig a little deeper. When considering the concept of what we accept from others, it is important to reflect on our own self-worth and beliefs about what we deserve. Oftentimes, individuals may unknowingly accept less than what we truly deserve because of internalized feelings of unworthiness and self-doubt. This can manifest in various aspects of our lives, including relationships, work environments, and personal boundaries. It is crucial to challenge those beliefs and examine if what we are accepting aligns with our true worth and value as individuals. Asking ourselves if what we accept from others is truly reflective of what we believe we deserve can prompt us to advocate for ourselves and set firm boundaries that align with our self-worth. Ultimately, it is about recognizing and valuing our own worth and not settling for anything less than we deserve. Often other people can get in your way on your journey to self-love, so I want to ask,
Is what you accept from others what you feel you deserve? Either one of you can go.
Your turn, preach.
So what I did, well, no. Even in the good and the bad sense, right? Like, is it what I deserve? Because I've found myself being in a state where there's a lot of times where I receive great compliments about the person that I am, and I'll appreciate it, but, you know, do I see it within myself? That's something I'll have to reflect in the mirror. And then the bad thing is that I work so hard not to be that people deem me as. It's like, you know, I don't accept those either because I'm working so hard against those things. I guess the real thing is where do I appreciate myself, and then what am I receiving? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of the times, if we go off trolls and things of that nature, like I can't receive what they're saying because they're just talking for whatever reason they're talking. And then the people that do care about me and they give me the compliment that I receive is based off of something, and it's usually from what I present to people. So I just try to be mindful of that. But does it? I don't think so. It does, but it doesn't. The good ones yes, the bad ones no.
Yeah. You know, I feel the same. I feel like it's half and half. You know what I mean? Like, it's a half and half on it. Only because, like, again, like, it just depends upon your perception. And your perception is, what allows it to be a blessing or a lesson at the time. Blessings are only blessings because you've been able to receive the full benefit of the understanding of the situation. If it's a lesson, that means you might not have understood, like, and received the whole benefit of that situation. So it be half and half to me. You know what I mean? Like, depends. Depends on how you see it. Is it a blessing or a blessing? Because all of it's still a blessing. And Louis decided, I'm sorry, y'all. Louis, he just, it's my
He
first
wanted to be
child.
on a feature show. I understand.
Uh-huh.
Gizmo does it all the time.
He said, we here with Jen every Saturday. So, yeah.
Your answer made me think about constructive criticism. I mean, just the aspect of that, because constructive criticism doesn't always feel good, but it's needed. So you're right, it does like revolve around the perspective given, but then what place are you at? What perspective do you hold to be able to inherit and grow from based off of somebody's opinion? But that was just something that came to me.
Oh yeah.
For me, if everything has a beginning and an end, then you're learning from the very beginning until the very end. And if we think on that level, that spectrum, that balance of the glass always being half empty and half full, then you're never really the best, and you're never really what most people would consider less, right? Because there is always some balance. When you get into a union or a relationship or even a contract, be it physical, verbal, financial, or emotional, you're always going to gain something and lose something. And depending on that glass half empty and glass half full type of thing, most people would see that as it's always a win, or you never lose and you never win, right? Because there's always something to learn, there's always something to experience, and there is always something to have some type of skill, some type of balance, some type of, well, at the bare minimum, I did do this, I did this right, I did that right, could have done better there, completely lost it there, but I'm still here, right? So what if the blessing and the lesson was just to survive and just to know that no matter what you choose, you can try again? Then you never won, but you never lost either.
I just have one answer to this question. Do I feel like what I accept from others, what I think I deserve? This is the only answer I can really give y'all.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But then I think about it's my fault if what I accept from others is less than I deserve. Which also kind of goes back to what I said earlier, that I'm my own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to self love, because if I had from the very beginning with a lot of the people who don't give me the respect or the love that I deserve in the way I deserve it, who can I really blame but myself? So it really kind of goes full circle back to I'm my own worst enemy, and knowing that. So absolutely not. If I had set those boundaries in place from the very gate, I probably would get a lot more respect than I get now. I think people, it's like when you start allowing people to slide the ice skate type of deal, and I think that's the kind of uh, habit I got into, was allowing myself to accept less than I deserved.
Understand.
But if y'all are just pulling up, it's okay. Y'all can find us here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Red Room Talk, y'all. You guys have not missed it all. We still have a little bit more to discuss. We just discussed what self-love is, and we discussed internal turmoil and the things we accept. Now I want to see what you do for yourself. Self-love is an essential practice that can improve mental and emotional well-being. There are many ways to actively practice self-love, and everyone's approach may be different. Some common strategies include setting boundaries, like I just said, to protect your energy, practicing self-care activities like exercise and meditation, fostering positive self-talk and affirmations. I can't stand you, Preach. Surrounding yourself with supportive and loving people, much like Preach. I can't stand him, y'all. It's all his fault. And engaging in activities that bring joy and fulfillment. By making self-love a priority and incorporating these practices into your daily routine, you can cultivate a stronger sense of self-worth and resilience to navigate life's challenges. So what do you do to actively practice self-love in your own life? And the question is,
What are you currently doing to practice self-love?
All right.
I want to say I can go first. Um, I struggle with what is self-love, right? Because in the same way I mentioned earlier with Really Rebecca, is it's based off of experience, right? It what's good to me may be mediocre to you, and vice versa. Um, so what is self-love, and just what it means to me, and what that feels like and what that looks like, versus what would Really Rebecca think was self-love for me? Because if I come to a friend, and I have these issues, or these battles that I'm fighting, and they've never been through them, they can tell me what they think is right, but never, not from experience, if they've never experienced anything like it. And so what self-love is to me, or what it looks like for me presently, is sometimes waking up on a Saturday and not being anyone but me, right? Not worrying about anybody but myself, or what their needs are, or what their love language is, or what it takes to fulfill these things and make that other person happy. Self-love is selfish, in my opinion and in my experience, because when you start to think of everything that's beneficial to you, what that looks like for you is not the same to other people, because it's a matter of perception, right? So some people look as a write-up as constructive criticism, and a pillar, or a structure, or an example of what it is to be good at something. But what if you were greater and nobody ever experienced it, right? Because they're basing the greatest off of the last person to do it absolutely perfect without fail. So what if you did it a different way and you still were successful without fail, right? They would only know that you were the greatest to ever do it because you showed a different way and still won, and it wasn't the same exact way that the last person did it. If we all reach the same destination, then it does not matter the course. That also feeds into where there is a no, there is a yes, right? You only fail by not trying, but a try is not a fail.
For me, when it comes to self-love and the things that I practice, this is my opportunity to be selfish with myself. Because a lot of the things that I have to practice to execute self-love, I have to do it by myself. And I struggle with that because oftentimes I value the opinions of the people that I care most around me. So to isolate myself, it's a trifecta for me. The development of my mind, body, and soul. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that I'm reminded on how God loves me because he comes first in my life. The development of my body by making sure that I take time to spend walks outside, to go running, to go play ball, to work out, to make sure that my body's in a healthy state. And then doing what I agonize Jen and Juice to do, and that's just talking to myself nicely with affirmations and expressing my gratitude for the simplest of things. Because sometimes life throws those curveballs that are extremely difficult, and I have to remind myself of the basics. You know, so listening to the birds chirping, just listening to the wind go through the trees and whatnot. These things are a calming state for me, and I spend that time just to keep myself reminded that I do love myself because I love the simplicity of life and everything that I've gone through to be where I'm at today. It's a constant fight every day to make sure that I'm doing something to do those three things: read my word, work out, and talk to myself nice. Because I don't get that privilege all the time. It's based off of who I put myself around. You know what I mean? So it's that. That's my practice of self-love. Emphasis on reading my word and working out.
Yeah.
I don't know. If this would have been like a decade ago for me, I would have said the exact same things that y'all said. At this point in my life, I feel like self-love is understanding how to love yourself among the masses. So what I mean by that is I don't have no regrets for loving others over myself at times. Like, we all have like schedules, routines, this, that, and whatever. So to me, I feel like when we mentally like compartmentalize ourselves, like in this, like we have to segregate and separate ourselves from others in order for us to love ourselves, it's really kind of stupid, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion, but it's really kind of stupid because the majority of us are doing things not just for ourselves, but for others as well too. And not to get credit or gratification as if like we're trying to call ourselves God over, God that is the one that's ultimately like running the whole show for every last one of us in our life because we have that within us. Like, to me, when I stopped worrying about separating myself from others, because again, separation is not a good thing if it's for the purpose of self. It really isn't. Because if you don't understand who you are, what you want, then you're only separating yourself and allowing yourself to be open to things that you don't want because you don't understand how to take those negatives and turn them into a positive in the first place. So if you're sitting there by yourself and all of your thoughts are negative, then the actions and reactions of what you're doing are not going to give a solution or resolution to anything. It's going to continue into the problem of what's happening in the first place. So what I started learning was to stop real. I don't know the best way. Man, stop victimizing yourself. You ain't got to separate yourself from everybody else. Just make sure you take care. You know what I mean? Like, just make sure you take care of yourself. Just take care of the things that you know you need to take care of. If you sit here and you depressed all the time and you ain't doing your hair, you ain't getting yourself together, you ain't this and that, don't be mad because the other person that did, even though they going through the same thing, they getting a different reaction than you did. That's the point. Like, it's not about us separating ourselves from everybody because that is a thing that's like actually spiritually, the only time that you're supposed to be separated from others is when you're going through prophetic moments with God. Other than that, then the purpose of us being here together is to be here together. So be together, but be for real about it. Like, if you don't have love for yourself, then you ain't gonna love nobody around you. Like, you can take all the time you want to yourself out there. I can go take a whole 50 million bubble baths. I can go do this and this and that. I can go do whatever I want to do that I feel like is self-preservation, self-love, this and that. But when all of those intentions have something against what my overall intention is, which is to be a contributor into our communities of what we have here in the first place, then take your time. Girl, go get your bubble bath, go cry your little cry, snatch your tears, and then come on back with the business so that we can all get together and do what we need to do collectively. Like, it just depends to me. It depends on like how you feel like you're perceiving the situation overall. For me, I don't like nowadays my self love, my practices that I have is to make sure that I'm including myself more and not separating myself more. Because if I'm separating myself and I don't have no direction for myself, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna sit there and be miserable. I'm gonna be miserable. And then I'm gonna go out with other folks and look for other folks to make me happy when I'm miserable. So you can't make nobody else happy when you ain't happy, and you can't find happiness from others when you ain't happy. Like, we're all together with each other. So at the end of the day, I just feel like when we separate and we don't know why, then it's a problem. You know what I mean? So I'm all about resolutions. Like, when I was younger, I felt like I needed to separate myself from people, and I missed out on some things. You know what I mean? Like, I missed out on opportunities of being able to have healthy relationships with others because I was in a state of trauma. And a lot of times when we do this, we trauma bond with others. And at this point in my life, I ain't looking for no trauma bonds. I ain't looking for no type of trauma bonds. I don't need to bond with you off of trauma. We can be empathetic to a lot of things and sympathetic to a lot of things. But at the end of the day, like, let's be go-getters. Let's do this collectively as we should. Let's be together with it. And part of my self-love practice is putting myself out there with other people, no matter what.
But you also did mention that there is a time when you're supposed to separate, and that's when you come into communion with God. So there is an important time too.
You do have prophetic times where you do have to, but that's for a reason. But a lot of times we don't have a reason to separate ourselves, but because of fear, we do, and we think that we need that time away from everybody else, and we don't. What you don't need to do is you don't have to share everything that you got going on before it happens. You don't have to do certain things in general when it comes to others, but we all still need each other.
So let me interject for just a second. I'm going to say this. For me, I have to separate myself from folks sometimes. It's almost like, when they would like separate a sheep from the herd, or when one was sick, and then, to kind of not, it's almost the same thing with your negative mindset, right? So I know when I'm in a place where I'm of a negative mindset, or I'm in a place that's not good for other people, because we know misery loves company, honey. So for me, when I'm in that kind of space, and I know that I need separation, because I'm like, at some point, my social meter runs out. I'm a very social person. I'm a social butterfly. Anyone who knows me knows I can make a friend out of a person on the street. I can walk into the room of 99 people or 100 people, and I'm gonna walk out with 99 friends. But for me, there's times when I feel like I just have to kind of give myself that step back. And the reason why I say it's for self-love is because I have to give myself time to make a plan to figure out whatever it is that I'm going through. Like, okay, how can we make this better? How can I make me better? How can I... And it might not always go well. But for me, I feel like I have to kind of separate myself from the herd, so I don't even, muck up everyone, else's mood. Because, you could walk into a room and everybody's laughing and kikiing and cuckooing, but I'm in a different mind state, and I don't want to let that rub off on anyone. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes other people's moods. Oh, I've got a whole heart on over here. Um, but for me, even okay, I don't know what is going on here. Um, even other people's moods will rub off on me, so I have to separate myself so I can be in that positive mind state when I'm in a positive mind state, even.
That was a
Um,
powerful too. I feel like a lot of this is warranted based off of our community being healthy. Sometimes you have to create a form of separation because most of the time society said that we're a product of our environment. If you don't have a healthy environment, it's not really healthy for you to go and involve yourself with others. Sometimes you have to separate yourself, and then you also said as an individual, like you would have to have some form of plan while you're in your isolated form. Well, if you're no longer attracted or find out that you're not in a healthy environment, sometimes that separation is needed so you can edify yourself in different ways. You surround yourself with people who are healthy, because not every form of circle is good for you to be around. You know what I'm saying? So it's important that if you don't know the best way, you have to be mindful of who you surround yourself with too, because that could be even more detrimental to your self love. If you're surrounded by people who lack in that area of self love, then it's just a bunch of people who just don't know what to do with themselves. So,
But isn't there a lesson to learn from that though? If you surround yourself with people that you shouldn't be around, then ain't there a lesson to learn from that?
if you're in a state to be able to learn,
Exactly. So if you isolate yourself and you're not thinking correctly about things, how is that healthy?
well, that's what I mean though. Like sometimes you have to separate yourself to help with that thought process, and everybody's different too. I feel like I work best when I'm in a separated state, but I also know how to utilize my community in that aspect as well. Both are needed. But I want to highlight the fact that I feel like there is importance in separation, and community is definitely important too. I mean, I'm a person of the community. My heart is of service. Like I have to be with people because if I go too long without them, I'll start to feel away. But I also have a value with being in this in not isolated, but in a separated form. Because if anybody was to reach out to me in my isolation, I feel like I could make time for it. But both are necessary. Both are extremely necessary. Because there's now we have social media and we have the internet. But prior to these things, we didn't have a lot of different ways besides what we had around us. You know what I'm saying? So both are necessary. Both are necessary.
for
I
sure.
grew up with the people that was around.
When we say stuff like, I mean, in my opinion, for me personally, when we say stuff like, we got the internet now, but we didn't have it before, there's still open lines of communication before. Like, it might not have been as fast as it is now, but as far as what we perceive of the situation, but there are still open lines of communication. And back in the day, I would completely agree with everybody and say, oh yeah, like isolating yourself like that all the time is a healthy thing. But again, if you are not in a healthy state of mind, then it's not a good thing.
Right.
That sometimes is the difference between a serial killer and not.
Right. And
Honey.
I think and it kind of is not just by myself, but even for me, like my biggest probably form of self love at this present moment is being in therapy, because that's where I'm learning not learning, but I'm growing and learning things about myself and how to grow as a person, emotionally, and to kind of separate myself from the negative things that that have happened, and to grow from them. So I think for me that's like the biggest thing, in self love for me at my present moment. But y'all, if y'all are just pulling up, you're late. But y'all, we do have one more question. We just discussed what self love is, then we discussed internal turmoil and the things we accept. What do you do to practice self love? But now, looking back 5 years ago, I never would have imagined the personal growth and changes I've undergone since then. I used to believe certain things about myself and my capabilities that I now see as limiting beliefs. I've taken risks, pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and faced challenges head on, leading to significant transformations in my mindset and behavior. These changes have allowed me to overcome obstacles I once thought impossible and have helped me become a stronger, more resilient individual. Reflecting on the journey I've been on, it is incredible to see how much I have grown and evolved from the person I once was. I think it's really important in loving yourself to recognize how far you've come. So the question is,
What changes have you undergone that you thought were impossible 5 years ago?
again?
What changes have you undergone that you thought were impossible 5 years ago?
Accepting my full responsibility for my life.
Are you saying that you blamed others?
Mm, no and yes. Like perception. So based off of things that I've been through in my life, I felt like, it wasn't even blaming others. Like I've been through breast cancer, I've been going through lupus, I've been going through all those other things too. That doesn't have a face to it. It's just a spirit. You know what I mean? And what I had to understand is accepting responsibility of all things that are happening around me in general. Because at the end of the day, it's stuff that we can sit here and we can, make hereditary things or non-hereditary things like issue. We can don't even put a face to it. You ain't even got to put a face to it. It's about other things as well too, and we make faces for things that don't exist. I made a face for cancer that didn't exist because I'm still here. I made a face for lupus and I'm still here. You know what I mean? That don't even have nothing to do with people. And my perceptions, my thoughts, my things were changed not off of individuals, but based off of what I thought of myself because of what I went through. So once I stopped putting a face on everything, because that's what we do here, we physically compartmentalize things and we make a face for something that doesn't exist at times. I stopped making faces for stuff. And a lot of that had to do with me involving myself with plethoras of people. And that's the reason why I say, like, it for me, it's like when it came down to practice of self-love, I stopped isolating. I threw myself out there more. Because when you throw yourself out there in a healthy way, meaning that you understand that it's going to be crazy folks out here. Like, it's going to be folks that's crazy and they don't know they're crazy. You might be crazy and don't know you crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a bunch of stuff that goes down. You have good people at heart that do bad things and bad people that do good things. There's going to be all those different things that goes on. We make faces for a lot of different things. Once I stopped labeling my experiences and just lived, it helps me to get through those times that are harder for me. So I had to learn that. I had to learn how to accept responsibility for my effing self. I mean, I don't know, but you gotta accept responsibility for yourself. Because at the end of the day, how you react, whatever is going on, is based off of you. Period. Like, it ain't nobody else. It's you. Like, I could have sat there and had breast cancer and thought, I'm gonna die. No, I ain't about to die. I'm only gonna die if I don't sit here and logically think about what I need to do to live. And it's really not that hard. It's easy to live, just as easy as it is to die. And it's thoughts. So once I stopped putting like stuff on everything else and myself, once I stopped blaming myself for everything, because I really blame myself more than anybody. Maybe if I would have did this and did that, I wouldn't have ended up with breast cancer. I wouldn't have ended up with lupus. I wouldn't have ended up, it don't even have nothing to do with people. Like, screw other folks when most people don't care about nobody but themselves anyway. And people be sitting here struggling with self-love and you already selfish. Like, don't make it a negative thing. Like, you trying to preserve for yourself is not a negative thing. It's only negative to the person that it affects. If it don't benefit them. That's it. Like, once I stopped and I took responsibility for myself completely, it's not going to make life easier, but it'll make it a lot easier for you to deal with it. So, yeah. Like, chin checking myself. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I learned from. And ain't got nothing to do with everybody else. But at the same time, too, that's the reason why I understood more the value of why people collect. Why it is of value to being around other people and hearing other people, even if you don't agree. Like, even if you don't agree, there's something to learn from that. That learning is still a blessing. Why? Because we're still here. I'm still here. So why make everything negative all the time when it ain't? Like at the end of the day, we're all safely sitting in our homes right now. Are we not? Could there be a possibility of a threat for this and that? Yes. Any of us could be sitting here right now and some tragic thing can happen right here while we're alive. But we don't assume or think that automatically, so it's not coming to you in that sense. Like we attract things. We do those different things. When you don't accept responsibility for how you think and you act in your life, all kinds of stuff come to you. And you can't blame nobody else but yourself. And then we get into this whole like we gotta forgive ourselves, we gotta love ourselves. Baby, you already loved yourself when you woke up this morning. When you woke up this morning and you thought to do something different for the day, you already loved yourself. Give yourself credit for the small things.
Um, that was good. I like that. I think mine, probably within the last 5 years or a little bit longer, but it's my transition from saying, or from asking why me and saying why not me. Um, Really, what a lot of Rebecca was saying was like, that thought process of the things that we go through and not looking at it in such a negative way, and trying to find the blessing and or lesson that comes behind the things that I'm going through. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm no different from anybody. We're all going through something, and some people are going through worse things. You know, that form of gratitude and that aspect to help me a lot too. But it's just like, okay, I might be the perfect person to go through this storm. So again, like how Rebecca said, when there is a community that I can go to and somebody's going through something that's very similar, that I can be an asset to that person's life because I have gone through it. And the only way that I can be that kind of asset is if I'm in acceptance of what I go through and see it and not in a negative light, but in a positive way. So my transition from going why not me to why me to why not me was probably my biggest one for sure.
I think that 5 years ago, I was already fully aware or had a decent idea of how life works. And there was nothing that I have experienced or accomplished today that I seen impossible 5 years ago. Because I feel like if we are only as strong as our weakest link, and there's always room for improvement, then we always have what we need for what we're currently going through. And as our evolution progresses, so does our skill set and our emotional intelligence. Um, and we get these incremental increases on self progression. So if there's always a lesson to be learned and we're always learning, then we're never complacent and always evolving into a better, stronger, wiser person. So if today I feel like nothing is impossible to me, 5 years ago, from now, 5 years ahead from now, this question wouldn't apply. It would be non-applicable, right? Because we're only in competition with a better version of ourselves. And how do you get better? More practice, more experience, more opinions, more wins, more failures, more wins and more losses. Nothing was impossible 5 years ago. Nothing is impossible right now.
Honestly, I think the biggest change was I didn't feel like I had a voice. Like I didn't think I could sit here in front of you all and talk like this or people would want to listen to me. I think as much as I have my self doubt, I also have way more confidence than I ever did. First of all, not only do I look better than I did when I was 21, if I do say so myself, but you know, I've made a lot of stride. As much as I know that I have a lot more to go, a lot further to go, I'm definitely not where I was.
Hmm.
I'm definitely not where I was. And a lot of that comes from the things that I've been through in the last 5 years alone. I went through a lot of strife and a lot of changes, but I also had a lot of great things. And um, even to be with someone who loves me the way they do, that I never thought that I could allow someone to love me like that. And that for me is huge because I was so afraid. I was so afraid of allowing someone in, and I did. So even that for me is huge. So, but if y'all are just pulling up, this has been the Red Room Talk, y'all. You guys can find us every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're definitely late, but tonight's topic was self love. Um, the show is over. But y'all, every week I come to a place of healing where I do a quote of the week. So this week's quote is self love. Keep notes of the times you feel you're most confident, the people that make you smile and laugh until your stomach hurts, and the moments that were incredibly challenging but you're thankful for. As those moments, no matter how hard they were, led you to the person you are today. You see, self love isn't about loving yourself and everything that happens to you all the time, but instead about truly growing through the hard stuff, even when they were the last thing you wanted to do. Being painfully honest with yourself is unconditional self love. This has been the Red Room Talk, y'all. I appreciate each and every one of y'all who were here on the panel tonight. I pray for them right now because they need a little more self love. But of course, y'all. You guys go ahead and give your outros. Let us reintroduce yourself. Ladies first, of course. I'm Miss Really Rebecca. Reintroduce yourself and let us know where we can find ya.
All right, once again, I'm your girl, Really Rebecca. I host Secret Sweetheart every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, y'all be sure to come check me out for that. If you ever want to be on the show, you can let me know. You can let me know here, or you can let me know on IG. My IG is the same as here, Really Rebecca. So, thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Thank you, y'all.
Preach.
Preach OQP positive, OQP stands for only quality people. It is always a pleasure to be on this show. You talk about all-star panel, man. I freaking love everybody in this room. It's amazing to be able to hear the opinions and the transparency that people when y'all come onto these shows, man. Because I got notes from each and every one of you, and it's a consistent thing that I do every time I come here. I love y'all, and the comments is always rocking. I appreciate the privilege to be able to be here on this show with you, Jay, man. You're amazing. Thank y'all.
Every Saturday that we're here, and even though it's not every single Saturday, I feel like we walk away with something. And I'm always appreciative to be here. Very, very humble and appreciative of this space that was allotted to me to be able to have these conversations and to be able to meet all these wonderful people and to be able to hear a perspective that is not mine. And Jen knows I love her. I tell her all the time. But I do appreciate the both of you for being able and Preach, you've shown up for us now 3 times. And um, sometimes what's little to you is major to other people. And I hope that you don't think that we think anything less or small of you when you do show up every Saturday because your mind is beautiful and your loyalty and your reliability is welcomed beyond what you know. And I'm just grateful for Jen. I'm grateful for life, and I am definitely grateful to be able to be here and share these moments and learn these things with you guys on the weekends. And we appreciate all the viewers that support us day in and day out and weekend after weekend. So next Saturday,
Next
be
Saturday.
here.
Y'all, I am Jen once again. You guys can catch me every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I need all of y'all who are still left in the building. I don't know who left here, but make sure y'all pull up tomorrow right here in this Life for Soul Food Sunday. We're gonna cook up some food and some conversation right over there with that number one bubble. Make sure y'all hit him with the favorite retail like a burrito, not now, but right now. Because you can also catch us in his live on Tuesday for Wancho Snacks and Juice. And we do have a special episode this week, y'all. We have a parcel sent straight from Australia of a whole bunch of snacks for us to try from somewhere different. So I'm really excited about that. Shout out to Serve for sending us a package of some goodies. So I'm really excited about that. So make sure y'all tap in on Tuesday for that. But definitely tap into wanchojuice.com, y'all, for your Wancho Juice merch. But yeah, I'm gonna play. I can't even say a little ditty no more. No ditty, just a little bop, little bop.
No Diddy.
No ditty, just a bop. In my Wancho voice. Oh, no bop either. Just a little tune. Tuna.
What up, son?